Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Ah, man, election. Not just election, FOMC, baby. We got the flavor happening this week. Welcome to Traders Reality, ladies and gentlemen. If you are new, my name is Tino, and you are tuning into the eve of the election. You know what? It's a very exciting time. I'm actually looking forward to FOMC because I want to know if Jerome Powell's still going to be in power if whoever decides to win. I mean, if Trump's going to win, is he going to replace Powell? Obviously not straight away, but you know what the idea is over there. But questions are being asked right now, like who's actually going to take it down? The polls themselves, they are marginal, very marginal. And the question is, guys, are you all voting? Who are you voting for? We've got a poll right now of our own. A little poll at the top right there, which is it's saying, who do you think will be better for the US economy? Would it be Trump or would it be Kamala or Harris? Whatever. I don't even know how to say her name properly. And that's something that I am going to address in today's live stream. Who actually will be better for the US economy? Now, what you've got to understand is, before we actually get into it, what I'm going to do is just talk about this idea of who will be better for the economy. Then I'm going to get into a little bit of price action. And then that should be it. So, who do I think will be better for the economy? Well, the first thing that people are focusing on is Trump and the tariffs. And everyone's like, oh, you can't do the tariffs. It's going to be messing up the inflation. It's going to do all sorts of stuff. But when you actually think about it, what do you think the tariffs are going to do? Bring money in. And that's the whole point. Can we just remind everybody in the US that your debt is currently growing and it's still at that $35 trillion mark? The US is trying to effectively pass a bill that says they'll buy 200,000 Bitcoin every year for the next 5 years so they can achieve 1 million Bitcoin and then use that and hold it for a 20-year period and use it to pay off the US debt. That's on the premise that it stays at 35 trillion, because if the US debt is going to get cleared off with Bitcoin, that would be on the assumption that Bitcoin would end up being $1.6 million per coin, which would bring it to around a $35 trillion market cap. That's if Bitcoin just goes parabolic towards 1.6 million. There's obviously price projections that everyone's coming out with. 225K for Bitcoin in 2025. 13 million by good old Michael Saylor. So it's going to be a very interesting thing, but you've got to understand that the tariffs, as much as they're bad for the countries that they're going to get the tariffs on, I mean, we're going to go straight into it, but Europe ain't going to be happy with the tariffs. But when you think about it, the euro is the biggest threat to the dollar. And anyone in the game of economics will understand that the euro does compromise the dollar at best of times, given that it makes up 56% of the dollar dominance chart. So naturally, if you want to squeeze that environment, you get the money to do what? To come back into the US dollar. People are making the mistake of thinking the tariffs are going to be bad. Inflation will go up, inflation will go down. We will always have inflation because we're always printing. But the tariffs in principle are designed to help the US economy, but more importantly, bring money in. The US doesn't make anything. Why do you think Biden passed that law to get the semiconductor index funding to companies in the US? China wasn't allowed to be part of it. Taiwan wasn't necessarily allowed to be part of it. Well, they were in essence, but it has to be done in-house. So if you're having a conversation with someone about these tariffs and they're like, oh, Trump's going to screw the economy, in my opinion, he's going to be bringing money into the US to reduce the deficit of debt. And if that's something that works with you, then naturally you think, okay, if the debt's going to be reduced, that means there's going to be more leniency in every other area in the US. You're going to get the cost of living is going to go down. It's not going to be as expensive. The tax cuts are going to come into play. And it just kind of puts us in a situation where we're saying to ourselves, well, surely that's a good thing if we're going to be getting tariffs. Although Elon has said that's going to be hurting certain companies, it is because the companies that Elon buys from are in China. And how many of you actually believe that the stuff in China is good? How many of you actually ordered something from China and said, yeah, man, that is really, really good? It's not, is it? But when you go German or when you go US muscle, you're like, yeah, baby. You know? So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to work out what BTC is going to be getting up to. And you're all wondering, what's Bitcoin going to do? And I'm going to say it to you clearly today. Be very careful. you're going into election volatility. Right now, articles are coming out that the polls are saying that this Kamala is going to be, Harris is going to be leading, Trump's going to be leading. The market will naturally react to this. So just be very careful with your exposure. Don't go all in. But you're better off waiting until the election is done. So when we know exactly where we stand in terms of economic policies that are going to be pushed over by Harris or Trump, you're going to have a clearer look on what you can expect moving forward. Looking at all the markets themselves, NASDAQ and S&P, I mean, NASDAQ's pulling back a little bit, but the S&P is trading very close towards its all-time highs. So is the NASDAQ in principle. I mean, I'm looking at NASDAQ and she's actually just thought, you know what, let's have the day off and just go down today. So it's going to be a very interesting one. And looking at Euro, she's been making a move up over the weekend. The yen trade or the carry trade principle could be coming into play, which means that investors might be feeling a little bit concerned about the result of the election, which means they're going to be getting rid of dollars and then converting it back into yen. Thus, the yen will be moving up against the US dollar and the euro going up against the US dollar. So that could be something that we need to be paying attention to. If the carry trade gets unwinded and they're not happy with Trump's policies, that is naturally going to be shown in the charts. And that's what we're going to be going into very, very shortly. So with that being said, let's get with the flavor, the program. We've got 20 minutes until the open. I'm going to try and keep this live within 30 minutes so you guys can continue about your day. I hope you've had a nice weekend. Happy birthday to anyone whose birthday it has been. And I was going to say something else as well. No, it's gone. It's gone. Oh, yeah, Peanut. Squirrel died. Never mind. There's another squirrel. That's the truth. That's making news, man. Anyways, this is where we are. Harris seems to be taking it down. Now, I'm looking at things, and this is what you got to take into consideration. First things first, where are we in terms of the polls themselves? So I've got a couple of things right here. All right, let me just bring them up for you. So early votes are saying that Harris looks like she's taking the lead, okay? Going into other articles, you can see that there is a battleground in regards to this election. We've got people fighting over whether they should be voting. Some businesses are closing up during the actual election votes themselves because they're actually concerned. They think there's going to be an all-out civil war. Do you think that could be something that happens? If they're tearing down people's signs who are in favor of Trump or Harris, then what else is it going to lead to if they lose? It's like a football game. Like if I go and watch a football team and I'm not happy with the result of the team, what am I going to do? I'm going to go headbutt someone who's on the opposing side. And I wouldn't actually do that, but never mind. But looking at the way things are as well with regards to Trump, because this is the big thing about how is it going to appreciate, or should I say help the US economy? The tariffs. And that's what everyone needs to understand. The tariffs are going to reduce this bad boy right here. Look at it. Every person in the US owes the US government, or is costing the US government $270,820. That's your debt per taxpayer. That is absolutely wild. This thing up here, 35,970,433,380 or 50,000, whatever it is, it's just climbing up, guys. I mean, the money supply right now is also going up, so that's kind of good. Print, 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 happy days. But the purpose is this. If Trump does the tariffs and he does win and he gets it through with the tariffs, China's going to be impacted by it. And China's already got a slowing economy anyway, which would explain why oil ain't really making its moves. But oil is moving up because investors are starting to get a little bit cautious about how things are going to happen moving forward. You've got tensions overseas that are still going off. And investors are sort of probably moving their money from gold going into oil. But at the same time, looking at gold itself, you've got to consider that gold could be getting ready for a hedge. In other words, it's getting set up for a specific movement. Remember what I said last week? Those of you that trade gold, just be very mindful with it, because any drops down is effectively equity hedge investors getting involved in buying up the actual gold as it's going lower, in essence, to prepare themselves for an event that is due to happen. We got two events coming. We've got the election, and we've also got, of course, this week, the FOMC. Where are we at with it? Here we go. So going into tomorrow, it's an all-day event. You've got the presidential election and congressional elections themselves, and then we go into Thursday. Now, listen, if you are new to this channel and you're enjoying everything so far, make sure you like and subscribe, but be around for the FOMC on November the 7th. That's the biggest live stream that this this channel actually does. And we're going to be tuning in to the Joe Lings, to Gina's, to all the lovely ladies that are going to be asking Jerome Powell the critical questions. All the news anchors, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, they're all going to ask Powell if he's going to be getting in with that rate cut. Because right now, that rate cut ain't the story. Right now, it's all about the actual elections themselves. But it will be very interesting to see how the Fed is going to react to Trump's policies. I do believe that they will be asked on Thursday, or Powell will be asked, what's the plan now with the Fed in regards to Trump being in power? What's the plan for the Fed now with Harris being in power? I don't think they're going to adjust it too much, and nor will it actually impact the FOMC results themselves. But if we look at where we are overall, we know that gold is going up principally against the dollar because it's sustaining the idea that as interest rates are going to be cut in the US, gold in principle is going to go up because investors are going to be seeking an alternative to holding fiat. If the yield on the dollar is going down, that means foreign investors aren't going to be getting the yield that they want from the dollar. So they're going to naturally go over and turn to gold. Going over into the bonds market itself, we can see that the 10-year bond itself is sort of trading sideways. There is a lot of volatility, gapping up, gap downs, and what have you. Be very careful. But I will say this, if the bonds do actually shoot up during the election results themselves and the yields go down, you're probably going to be seeing Bitcoin and assets against the US dollar and assets with dollars appreciating. That means the NASDAQ will be going up, the S&P will be going up. And the question is, will Bitcoin just keep on going up regardless of the election itself? And that's the question that I've got for you all. Do you think Bitcoin is going to keep on climbing regardless of what the election result is? Because people in crypto are fixated that the election is going to be beneficial for crypto. Yes, fundamentally it will be. But we've got to remember, once he does step into power, is he still going to be as pro-crypto friendly? Will there be regulation that comes into play? What will happen if Harris comes into play? Is Bitcoin going to go down to 8K if Harris comes into play? In other words, she may care about the crypto voters now, but if she does get into power, she ain't going to care about the crypto voters because she's in power. And there's more people that are involved that are not involved in cryptocurrency than there are people involved in cryptocurrency. I mean, 2025, there will be roughly around 7% of the world's population. Sorry, it's 7.5% of the world's population will be involved in cryptocurrency, and that is up 0.5% from 7%. So is it enough? Nah, not in my opinion. But with that being said, you've got to just say to yourself, how are you going to be primed or set up for it? I'm thinking about it like this. Will the election effectively lead to a market crash? Am I a bear? Nah. We need a contractionary phase. And I think that what the markets are going to do is we're going to get a nice little blowout move to the upside. Given that, you can see S&P is actually marking lower. NASDAQ is marking lower. As you can see, it's trading down. But we go into the higher time frames. What's the overall sentiment? Now, it looks like we've got a nice little test of the moving average right here on the NASDAQ itself. And it's not too far away from its all-time high, okay? And as long as NVIDIA keeps on pumping up, then we've got nothing to worry about because NVIDIA is just an absolute monster of an asset. Completely outperformed Bitcoin, in my opinion. Some of you might not like to hear that. Gold and NVIDIA have outperformed Bitcoin, and that is the truth. Speaking of crypto, BlackRock loads up on 2.4 billion in Bitcoin. Oh my God, go long on Bitcoin. Happy days. Signaling a institutional shift. Remember, if institutions are coming into crypto, they also come into crypto with the mindset of Wall Street. They might go and buy themselves $2.4 billion worth of NVIDIA. They will also get rid of that stock if they don't think it's going to be viable to hold. The same way they'll treat it with the ETF itself. Are they buying on behalf of their clients? Who knows? But remember, BlackRock actually purchases the Bitcoin and then it gets put into an ETF by the transfer agent. APs like BlackRock, JP Morgan, Bank of America, all these guys that have been authorized to buy Bitcoin on behalf of their clients because as banks and under certain banking codes, they're not allowed to hold cryptocurrency. It gets put into this ETF, okay? But the same thing is going to hold true. If the market doesn't like the policies that Trump's going to be putting forward, that could lead to a market crash. And with that being said, are we heading into that? According to this chart right here, forecasting the stock market corrections, unless we are in this region right here, you see where it's yellow? This is where the markets effectively crashed. The last time that happened, that was when COVID came along, okay? Going over to here, around this point here was when the markets actually crashed in 2018. Why did they crash in 2018? Because of this report over here by the FDIC. Unrealized bank losses by the banks. Again, I will always laugh at this chart because it's around 516 billion. It crashed when it was 218 billion, but it won't crash now because it's at 516 billion. What the hell are people thinking? With that being said, has anyone been paying attention to Shiba, man? Shiba's doing some numbers. Going over into it, let's just quickly have a look at Shiba Inu because there's a lot of whales getting involved in Shiba right now. I just want to quickly just pull up Shiba Inu on Coinbase. Seems like there's so much activity going off on Shiba, and it looks like it's being poised for a nice little pump, assuming that things are good in cryptocurrency. I'll be looking for the wick all the way over here at 0.0004564. What a joke. So we've got to be keeping an eye out on that. The activity is starting to go up. It's drawn much attention. A certain pattern in the on-chain data is suggesting that sharp increases are going to be happening very, very soon in Shiba. So if you do hold Shiba, then happy days. With that being said, check this out. Pakistan is actually going to be considering legalizing cryptocurrency. Before, they weren't about it. Now they are. So maybe because endorsement by Donald Trump and Harris, that's probably leading a lot of players in Pakistan to think maybe we should actually legalize it and let people get involved in it. Happy days for crypto. That's more consumption. Awesome. Reducing supply. Happy days. And there's that price projection. Dude down below says here, just like the end of last cycle, everyone starts plucking fantasy figures out of thin air as we go into each of the end of each cycle. So it says here, Bitcoin to hit 200,000 by the end of 2025, regardless of who wins the US election. Bernstein Research. Do you actually think that's going to be the case? I mean, let's be honest. $200,000 Bitcoin, it could be possible. Let's just go over to have a look at BTC right now, trying to sweep that all-time high. Couldn't even clear its all-time high, man. What is this? What's going on with Bitcoin, man? Can't even clear that all-time high. And we said earlier in the weekend, if you joined us in the car stream, if price is still going below that 5 and 13 EMA, we're going to have ourselves a little bit of a problem with Bitcoin if it cannot get back up above the 5 and 13 EMA on the daily time frame. So if you're a holder right now going into the election, trying to work out if you should be buying Bitcoin or not, I would personally wait until the election is done. What's wrong with just waiting 24 hours? I don't get it. Just wait, because that's going to dictate if Bitcoin is going to be climbing up. Everyone is expecting Bitcoin to just go absolutely crazy. Now, just looking at Bitcoin from a day trading perspective, we go into the smaller time frames. We can see that Bitcoin is trading sideways. We've got the XRP formation right here, which some of you, if you are new to it all, will understand that when Bitcoin forms an XRP formation, it means it goes nowhere and does nothing and behaves like a stable coin. So yeah, you've heard it here. I have coined the newest indicator out there, which will suggest that an asset will go nowhere because it's in the XRP formation. Mad love to anyone holding XRP. I hold XRP. Get rid of it. That's not financial advice. It's actually common sense when you think about it. Anyways, back to the actual reality of what's going on. Just pulling this chart up over here. In front of you is the delta of Bitcoin. And if I just refresh this right now, it's going to show you the active orders that are coming in right now on the order flow. And what I pay attention to with this is provided by a company called Signals, and that's with the Cignals. I'm not affiliated to them, but I just see this as a depth of market for anyone that wants to use it over the web, okay? Because certain depth of markets like I use Jigsaw, ExoCharts, and what have you. But this is a web-based platform that gives you the live feed through Binance Futures. And what you want to be paying attention to with this, guys, is the relationship between the delta, how often it's changing. Right now, it's negative delta. And what you want to be paying attention to is if it's negative delta, it's consistent with buying. What do we mean by that? Well, when prices are dropping, you're hitting limit orders, and those are bids, and those are buy orders. Retail is selling right now, so they're just getting a little bit concerned. So when you pull this up, and you can see when it turns from green to pink, it's conventionally buying and selling, but I flip it on its head. When I see red, I see buying, okay? And you can see the delta right now is minus 2 million from the moment that I've refreshed the chart. And what you'll find is if you keep it up and watch it, you'll see how the delta changes, and you correlate that to price action. You can see it's starting to move up during positive delta, which would suggest selling's coming into play. That means price is going to be going up. And if anyone says, what do you mean price is going up because they're selling? How does that make sense, Tino? What the hell are you talking about? Well, let's just go over to this chart over here. This chart right here tells you who's buying and who's selling Bitcoin. And when we see that, we can see, go closer, you can see you've got an order right there. What does that say? 1.18 million. Someone's prepared to buy $1.18 million worth of Bitcoin at 68,400. On the flip side to that, You've got these orders up here. You got someone up here that wants to sell $1.18 million worth of Bitcoin at above. So they're selling. So that could be the same player that wants to buy it from that point and sell it from that point. And when price is rising, it's because they're selling. Retail's coming in buying because they saw their wedge on X and someone said something optimistic about Bitcoin and they start getting aroused and they start going for it and buy Bitcoin. Well, they are the exit liquidity. So you want to be paying attention to when prices are going down, because when retail's selling, that's when the bigger players and the boys are actually starting to buy up the Bitcoin. Here we go. I got some questions right here. Tino, Juan Tutri, what's good, my man? Defense stocks have been selling off. Possible indicator for which candidate is less likely to start new wars? Great question there. I would say that a lot of tech defense stocks, if we just go into one in particular, Lockheed, right? Lockheed's the one that's really actually killing it, okay? Believe it's still going for its all-time highs. Here we go. All right, okay, so look, it just recently cleared an all-time high at $545 a share. Now, this is aerospace and defense. Fundamentally, when the economy is starting to struggle, investors go over to aerospace and defense. Why? And, of course, healthcare. Why? Because those are the two industries that will always operate. Whether you've got a war, whether you've got an election, whether you've got inflation, depression, they're always going to be operating. There will always be funding and there will always be people that are sick that are trying to pay the money to get themselves better. That's the truth of it. There will always be diabetes, there will always be heart attacks, and there'll always be treatments that people are paying for to eradicate those situations, right? But when we go into something like this, you can see, yes, it is starting to pull back. There could be some profit taking coming into play, but good old Warren Buffett, whatever you want to say, he's currently sat in a lot of cash to some of around nearly $400 billion. Why? Well, hold on a second. The market says that it's not going to crash just yet by this forecast. If it goes above 50%, there's a possibility that it could be crashing. Well, it's nowhere near that projection zone yet. Okay, so have we got anything to worry about? Well, Buffett might actually be waiting for a correction. And that correction would only come into play if something drastic happens, like a black swan event. I heard someone say that the black swan event was the Japanese yen when they increased the interest rates. I've also heard that Trump getting shot was a black swan event. Why would you be getting all worked up about a candidate that's not president yet? Nothing happened. Nothing actually happened in the marketplace. A black swan event is effectively an event that no one anticipates. You can't anticipate it. We know that the Bank of Japan wants to consider increasing its interest rates again. So in the future, we know that the carry trade principle could be unwinded. And that means yen up, euro up, dollar down, NASDAQ, dustbin. Buffett's in cash. The bonds are at discounts. Is Buffett getting ready to load up on bonds? Maybe. Is the stock market going to crash? Because stocks are so overvalued right now. Massively overvalued. What are you buying right now that's going to net you a decent risk to reward in terms of investing in stocks? Nothing. In my opinion, nothing. Everything's near enough at all-time highs. That's on the premise that everything's going to keep on going up. Well, it won't. Going over to Bitcoin right now, you're probably going to get a lot of trading sideways with BTC, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the fact. I do believe by the time we get into the election itself, because you've got to take into consideration that Bitcoin is currently trading within its psychological ranges. These are psychological range, takes the first high and the first low that's formed at the start of a new trading week, which starts on a Saturday in cryptocurrency, right? So if you are new to this channel, you don't know what the hybrid system is, get to the Traders Reality website and go to the info tab and you'll see everything there for you and walks you through how to get hold of this indicator, and you'll be able to take advantage of how to use it. We talk about it on the live streams. It's free of charge, so get yourself involved. And if you do want to join the platinum membership or the gold membership, where you get more content about the hybrid system, trade setups and what have you, get to tradersreality.com. It's in the description and it's pinned to the top of the chat. Speaking of pinned to the top of the chat, you've all actually voted in this live stream. It says here, who do you think will be better for the US economy, Trump or Harris? 1,000. This doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I'm absolutely baffled by this. 1,141 of you have kindly voted. That's nearly 90% of the people in this live stream have voted who you think's going to be good for the US economy, Trump or Harris. There's 366 likes in the live. It doesn't make sense. Let's be honest now. All right, listen, I'm going to do something. We can get the likes to 1,600 likes before I finish this live, which is in 5 minutes' time, guys. I'm going to randomly pick someone and give $500 of an asset of your choice. And it doesn't include XRP. Sorry. Sorry. I ain't giving you XRP. No chance. Give you $500 with Bitcoin. I'll give you $500 of ETH, $500 of SHIB, whatever you want, right? Don't ask for XRP. I won't do it. I'd rather give you my supply for free for doing nothing. You got 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. You got 5 minutes to do that. Whilst we're doing it, have a look at Bitcoin's price action right now. Just looking at the NASDAQ. What's NASDAQ done? Oh, it's done a nice little sweeperoo to the downside. So we're keeping an eye on that bad boy. But as I said about Bitcoin here, you're going to probably see a lot of sideways price action. That's the thing. You might see a lot of sideways price action. And if you're contemplating whether you should be buying Bitcoin or not, okay, then wait till the election is done, because the FOMC will move Bitcoin. Because once the election is done, we're going back to interest rates, okay? Now, again, the 5 and 13 EMA on the daily time frame for all the holders, just be very mindful you are waiting to see how this candlestick behaves. If it does close below the 13 EMA today, guys, actually, you know what? To be fair, I'm not going to say today. It has to close within the 13 EMA on the daily time frame within 2 days, okay? Because you've got election tomorrow and it's just going to be crazy. If Bitcoin's price can close above the 13 EMA on the daily time frame, then there is a strong possibility that Bitcoin will probably use this drop to the downside to sweep up orders to effectively try and make the move to the upside. But if by the time the election is done, okay, and Bitcoin is still trading below the 13 EMA, Bitcoin's more than likely going to be struggling in these ranges, and there's a possibility it could even come all the way back down towards the 50 EMA and come and pick up some orders around 66K. So just take that into consideration if you are a holder, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Any questions? Pick me, Tino. Okay. Can you use the hybrid system on charts like Bitcoin dominance? Thanks. That's a great question. I like to look at it like this. So let's just have a look at USDT dominance. What does the USDT dominance chart tell you? Well, it just tells you when they're transacting on Bitcoin or going into USDT. But look at it from a perspective of the hybrid system. What does this candlestick tell you? Oh, it tells you that everyone is selling USDT to do what? To go and buy Bitcoin. So historically, at this point, when price tries to make the recovery back up towards that area right there at 5.59%, the logic would say that you are expecting people to probably transact on Bitcoin at around that point. Now, whatever the price is at that point is going to help you make sense of whether the psychology of investors is going to get transacted at that point. Why? Because that point right there led to a pump in Bitcoin. When the USDT chart goes up, then that's a point where people are actively selling their Bitcoin and going back into US dollars, okay, USDT. So psychologically, you're expecting it, because if you look at it, you can see once they pump price up here, okay, on USDT, you look again to the right, they did the same thing over here. So historically, the market's memory gets triggered when someone sees Bitcoin hit a specific price, they transact and get out of Bitcoin, whether it's to take profits or to do something else, all right? So you've got to really say to yourself, how can I behave? Or should I say, how can I view this chart? Well, look, they have been buying, they've been buying, they've been buying. As it's going down, you start to notice that the USDT chart starts to not show any of the vector candles. So that could suggest that there could be some profit taking coming into play. Bitcoin's price goes down, USDT goes up. So you can use it in that sense. In the sense of the Bitcoin dominance chart itself, a lot of people are just like, the best way I can see it is Bitcoin dominance is now showing people's interest in selling Bitcoin, okay? They're selling it because price is going up, but the dominance seems to be traveling a little bit more in terms of price action. They're showing that there's activity from investors, which means that these vector candles that you see here happening with Bitcoin, it just tells me that yes, there is activity on Bitcoin, but we are going to hit a certain wall very soon, which could limit Bitcoin dominance to be going higher. But the problem is people are using this thinking, when do I go into altcoins? I wouldn't be looking at it from that perspective, because I don't think we're in that now. I think when altcoins if Bitcoin keeps on moving up, then altcoins are naturally going to keep on moving up. I think that's where we are. I don't think we're in altcoin season, Bitcoin season. I think it's just going to be crypto, which is Bitcoin, in my opinion. I know I said that I think any coin outside of Bitcoin is a meme coin, But the proof's right there. Bitcoin's moving up. Look at Ethereum, man. It's had the day off. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 29 minutes and 48 seconds. I think that is where we kind of kill the live stream. You didn't hit the target of 873 likes. You obviously don't want $500 worth of Bitcoin. Never mind. We'll try and do it again another time. If you are new, be sure to like and subscribe, gang. And I hope you've enjoyed today. Take care of yourselves, gang. Peace. He said gang twice. He winked again. What